Welcome back, traders, stackers, and truthers. Silver Gold Man here. I'm making this video here Sunday, May 8th, and just a little update as far as the Panama Papers. And I'm making it, the video is being broadcasted live over at Connecting Dots 2. In case you didn't see this video here, I made a video here this past week. Silver Gold Man terminated. I can no longer have live shows anymore at Silver Gold Man. So I can still upload, I believe, 3-hour videos. So that's why I'm no longer live there. I'm live over at Connecting Dots 2. So if you're listening to this from Connecting Dots 2 YouTube channel, you're wondering what this is all about. Well, this all has to do with a series of videos here. I started back when this whole Panama paper scandal began here. So I've made several videos on it, and this is essentially a continuation of Panama connections and the latest updates. And I'm going to start off with some of the past stories that have recently surfaced that I haven't covered in since last week, and I'll come back to your comments at the end. So if you have any comments regarding any of this, you let me know, and I'll answer them at the very end. So let's jump into it. Yeah, Panama Papers paper trail chase is about to begin. This is what I was saying, folks. This is why I want to continue on with this series, is because it's exactly what I was saying. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of data they had to comb through, and I knew that this was just the needle in a haystack. There was a lot more needles in that stack. So the latest information here is John Doe mysteriously, the mysterious whistleblower behind the Panama Papers, he or she, we don't know if it's a he or she yet, but they finally speak. They came out here. And John Doe says, you know, the reason why he's behind all of this is because the income inequality, corruption motivated the massive data dump. So that's what's going on here. He says major media organizations passed on reporting onto the documents. Now I'll have some more important information, as you know, the media and what they're reporting and who's actually what they're deciding to report, because it's exactly here with this latest development that I'm about to share, the very last article. It's exactly what I'm saying here. They've been picking and choosing who they're going to put out in the media here. So we have the more breaking news from John Doe himself here, the latest development. That'll be the last story I'll share with you. And yeah, so essentially that was his story here, that he says, you know, in the statement titled "The Revolution Will Be Digitalized." The leaker argues that growing global income inequality is caused by the kind of corruption allegedly enabled by Mossack Fonseca. John Doe said the papers demonstrated the injustices perpetrated by offshore industry and blamed governments for allowing offshore havens to proliferate. Isn't that kind of like what we covered here in the last 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks ago. The leader also expressed concern for the fate of past whistleblowers, including Edward Snowden, saying they deserve full governmental immunity, but did express a willingness to aid law enforcement officials. That's right. So you can see here that the massive reporting project that included nearly 400 journalists and 78 countries, okay? But like I said, I got some new information, and I'm going to go over some of the past information that just came out this last week here that I didn't cover. Essentially, we found out these Panama law firms, some of them, well, Francesco anyways, use charities as cloaks for their clients, and big names too. We're talking about Red Cross, UNICEF, World Wildlife Fund. So apparently none of these charities benefited, or at least that's what they're saying here. But the Panama law firm at the center of the global investigation advised some clients that they could cloak their money in foundations that named as beneficiaries prominent international charities such as Red Cross, UNICEF, and the World Wildlife Fund. There's no sign that any money from those offshore dealings went to charities whose spokespeople say they had no clue they were part of the Francesco marketing strategy. Well, like I said here, we got a lot more information coming out, so it'll be quite interesting what ends up coming out of all of this. Now, some other stuff here, I'm not sure if you recall this, but Argentina's president, Mauricio Macri here, he's involved with this. Peru's presidential hopeful here, Keiko Fujimori, and Mexico's Enrique Pena Nieto here has been tied to the Panama Papers. In fact, it goes on to say, you know, 8 key facts so far. So far, that's the key point here. So far, because like I said, things are about to change. The whole thing is about to really increase in depth, I think, coming Monday. So another interesting one here, that the Panama Papers Chinese rich listers were top Australian clients. And it is not odd. I was just talking about the effects of the Panama Papers, I believe, that were affecting the Miami real estate just 2 weeks ago, right? And I couldn't make a definite connection to that, but I did report on a couple of occasions when I was doing the financial report that there was a slowdown in the high-end area of these $1 million homes. And more recently, I kind of made a connection. I kind of felt it might have something to do with the fact that the Panama Papers here, it's, you know, causing a little bit of instability. So in this latest one here down below, you can see Hu Kang was ordered to sell the 39 million mansion back in 2015. So I wonder, with this Panama paper, will we have more of this starting to escalate? Here it says the Chinese billionaires dominate the top ranks of Australia clients of the Panama law firm Mossack Fonseca. A new document shows the lengths to which the Panama law firm would go to protect them. Absolutely. So Fonseca Australian clients list, that's right, the client list can be searched on the Australian Financial Review's website from 4 a.m. on Monday as part of a release by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists with Chinese investors comprising of more than 1/5 of the total identifiable Australian-based names. That's right, 1/5 of the Australians base names are Chinese. So yeah, watch out, Panama. So Monchesco, as I mentioned before, they have offices all around the world, even United States. I mentioned here, Nevada, Wyoming. So I think there's, you know, this is going to be a snowball here. That's just, it's just, yeah. So oddly enough, like I said, I was talking about the Miami, the slowdown in the big money there, and oddly enough here, this latest story is talking about a Miami-based asset management and financial services firm has been implicated in the Panama Papers investigation. Okay, the GTC Group is headquartered in the known tax haven of Jersey, which is a British Crown dependency, but is not part of the UK or the European Union. The privately held firm has 2 U.S. offices, one in New York City and another in Miami here. So Francesco reported Saturday that the GTQ Group served as the main U.S.-based intermediary for several of the Mossack Fonseca Mexican clients. GTC Group and Mossack Fonseca worked together to register firms based in the British Virgin Islands and Geneva, Switzerland on behalf of Mexican clientele. So, amigo, I guess you're not buying as many homes anymore. You must be a little worried with all that Panama paper, eh, amigos? Well, it looks like there's a U2 connection. Yeah, that's why it's up there. YouTube. Yeah, so this one here talks about builders, sportsmen, bankers, solicitors, accountants listed. And again, this is not even with the full dump here. So in the leak Mossack Fonseca files here, we had golfer Patrick Harrington and the former U2 manager Paul McGuinness. That's right. So, yeah. You know what is about to hit the fan, I think, folks, because this is going to cover nearly 40 years of data here. And the Panama paper data release is just about to start dumping. The data dump, here she comes. So Panama Papers names to be made public tomorrow. This is, as I said, I'm making this on the 8th. Tomorrow's the 9th. Watch out, it's Monday. And well, we've already heard of Putin and his aide here. We've made that connection here. Now in this story here, you may notice here it says, yeah, more than 200. It's actually, I think, 240,000 offshore accounts. Yeah, there's a lot. I think it's, like I said, it's going to be a snowball here that's just going to start increasing in size as it rolls down that hill. Now, I spoke about the Canadians involved here, or Canadians, I should say, because it was 350 in my last report. Well, here now they're speaking about including the names of at least 625 Canadians will be revealed tomorrow, in the hope that public scrutiny of the material will generate hundreds of tips and possible corruption and tax dodging. So yeah, watch out. So here's the big thing about this here. The CBC News and the Toronto Star, who have exclusive access in Canada to the leaked data, because that's kind of important here with the story that I'm going to share with you at the end here, because they have exclusive. That means if, you know, some other Canadian newspaper that wants to maybe have access and take a look what names are in there, what Canadian names or what other important names, well, it's only exclusive. So a little bit of injustice there from my perspective. And I'll get into that at the end with the latest breaking news here as far as this leak. So they, you know, the Canadians are going to be naming some Canadians here, as well as of a lawyer here who was known as the go-to for the wealthy, and as well as a convicted fraudster who set up 60 corporations in various tax havens. Now, if you're a regular listener of mine, you may recall here I run that trade room. Now, one of my projects I've been speaking, if you have heard me mention it, was the fact that I was a long-term goal was that I wanted to have a trade room set up where people could, you know, escape their daily routine lives or where they normally live and come and trade offshore. But I want to do this legal, which is a point I failed to mention, I guess, as I cover these stories, is that even though there's all these different accounts, that doesn't mean that they are necessarily illegal. Just to let you know, okay, these offshore accounts, because there is some legal procedures or you know, loopholes, if you want to call them, that are available. And as I'd mentioned back then, that part of my reasoning behind opening off an offshore trading place in the Bahamas where us traders could come down and trade for a good portion of the year, or even 6 months or 4 months of the year, and all tax-free. You know, only 2.5% here would be taxable. It's all legal, all on the up and up, right? It's not tax evasion. It's more tax loopholes, if you want to call it. So essentially, this is something my own tax broker had brought to my attention, and I'm not getting off. I don't want to get into this right now, but this IBCs is what he spoke to me about. I've just began my research. This is a legal practice. So, you know, it's not all necessarily bad people that are doing it, but yeah, I don't like the fact that the exclusive access, that's a problem, and the names that have been mentioned so far. So another thing I wanted to say, yeah, 370 journalists here are working around the world looking at this data with, like I said, 11.5 million documents. It's just the beginning of all of this. Now the ICIJ here has said all along that it intended to publish the list of names and accounts in the Panama Papers, which it got from 2 German journalists. Okay, so yeah, the John Does who obtained the leak from a source, I guess that would be the John Doe himself, actually, while withholding the actual documents. So that's the part that I'm going to speak about here, how the John Doe himself has the actual documents and the latest information, what's going on, what his offer is. So those documents include everything from copies of people's passports to telephone numbers, Mossack Fonseca's internal emails, and in some cases financial records, material that will not be included in tomorrow's release and will remain available only to the ICIJs and its journalist partners like CBC and the Star. So that's my problem with this here, how it's just an exclusive journalist club to, we should have this open. This should be open to everyone. As far as I'm concerned, everyone should have access to this stuff. Why not? I don't know. So anyhow, I'm not going to get into all of this, but the journalist group here was they were criticized in my last week in Miami at an international conference on offshore havens, where Riley here delivered a keynote address. His organization and its media partners were publicly chastised by a number of lawyers for dealing in stolen data and cherry picking stories from the Panama Papers that the critics said that made offshore havens look especially nefarious. Like I said, it's not necessarily all nefarious. There are some tax loopholes, so to speak, that are legal. Anyways, so their whole the lawyer here, his whole thing, he says, thanks to people like him, he says, privacy, a basic human right, is already on the list of species in danger of extinction. Well, I don't know. There's a little bit of a problem with privacy and actual like stashing cash and setting up a whole bunch of fake accounts and so on. That's more than just regular offshore, like I said, that ICB account I was just speaking about, which is what I wanted to say, what I want to open up in the Bahamas, that's all totally legal. But when you go through all this other funny business, that's where it gets really, yeah, very funny, where you're even cloaking yourself under charities, that's where people kind of wonder what's going on. So there's a lot of information that's going to be coming out. Like I said, this is just the beginning of it here. Now, oddly enough, you may recall how I was talking about in a UK here, we had Cameron here, who is now, going to jump on board and start dealing with this here. So he's promised here to fight global corruption ahead of the summit that's being held in London this week. That's something I was speaking about 2 weeks ago, where the Panama Papers leak is likely to dominate the agenda. Yeah, so, I think this is, as I mentioned, on June 23rd, 2016, they're having a referendum in Britain regarding if Britain should stay with the euro or leave and go on its own. So we have Johnson on the one side, who's running for prime minister, who wants to leave the Eurozone, and we have Cameron on the other side, who wants it to remain with the Eurozone. So it's kind of odd here at this specific time, junction in time, where they're about to have a referendum on this, important thing regarding money. We have Cameron on the other side here trying to look like, Superman, who's going out there fighting the global corruption, just as they're coming in for this big election. So, yeah, I think it was like perfect timing on his part. Is it all timing? This is what I'm kind of questioning here. And, even I forgot to mention that, but when I was showing this other document, this other paper on the Argentina and some of the other South American countries, I'm still sticking with my prediction. I made this prediction 2 weeks ago, I think it was, when I started covering the Panama Papers. I still believe that there's a very good chance there will not be any 2016 Summer Olympics in Brazil. I know you're saying I'm crazy, but whatever. This is just the beginning of the snowball. So with this big dump of information that comes out, I believe that snowball will start increasing, and there's a whole lot of problems that I'm not going to get into right now that have to be dealt with in Brazil, and they've just had this big oil corruption scandal. There's some work that has to be completed before the Olympics even begin this summer in 2016, and I don't think this is going down. I think they're going to be really pissed off, especially depending what kind of information here we get coming with this whole data dump coming tomorrow. So watch out. Don't be surprised if there's no 2016 Summer Olympics. You'll say, holy jumping, I remember the silver gold man speaking about that. That was about 2 weeks ago, I think, when I first started covering these stories. So I wouldn't be surprised here. There's a lot of information, and when this comes out, when we're dealing with money, people get very upset, and I think this is a perfect time here for Cameron to be placed in this situation here. So this is the battle against corruption will not be won overnight. It will take time, courage, and determination to deliver the reforms that are necessary, but we cannot hope to solve the major global challenges we face without tackling the exploitation, fraud, and dishonesty at their heart. For too long, there have been a taboo about tackling this issue head on. And oddly enough, you may recall how I spoke how Cameron's own father happened to have a trust fund, and he actually pushed some legislation away from dealing with trust funds back in the 80s when they were first looking into these offshore accounts. And here we are decades later, and he's now on the other side of the fence here trying to play the role of Superman. And if you don't know what that's all about, you'll have to go back to my Silver Gold Man Panama paper videos, and you'll see I covered this specific topic here when this all began. So initially, I mean, essentially, he's now coming out here playing the other side of it. He's going to push the fight against the international agenda here. So, money, 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 money. And is it going to be YouTube Bloody Monday? I'm telling you, with this data leak, folks, and with the YouTube connection. So here's the latest information, and I'll be going to your comments right after that. John Doe here, the Panama paper leaker, speaks out with a tantalizing offer for law enforcement. So the anonymous source responsible for the surfacing of the Panama Papers has issued a statement on the website of the journalism consortium that has been sorting through the documents trove. And he says, I do not work for any government or intelligence agency directly or as a contractor, and I never have. And he goes on to say, well, this most recent one here, a tantalizing offer, he says, in the end, thousands of prosecutions could stem from the Panama Papers if only law enforcement could access and evaluate the actual documents. The ICIJ and its partner publications have rightly stated that they will not provide them to law enforcement agencies. I, however, will be willing to cooperate with law enforcement to the extent that I am able. So that's a key point here, that even with the ICIJ and the partner publications, they're not going to be providing those papers to law enforcement agencies. So this guy's saying, hey, come on over and see me. I'm willing to dump the files. I'm willing to help you folks. I wish I had, I could get a little bit more into this, but it just, there's story after story. As far as law enforcement, there's one here from Malta, how the police there don't want to deal with it. And, the political system there, they're saying, we're not letting go of this here. You guys have to deal with this. So I believe that, watch out, this whole Mossack Fonseca Panama paper snowball is going to be a bloody Monday, or just beginning with this bloody Monday, when this whole thing starts to pick up momentum as more papers are dumped, and we have big names here who are connected worldwide, hiding their assets, and we'll see if this affects the real estate, because that was another one of my predictions. I think that high-end real estate is going to be affected. So I'm going to go to your comments here and see if we have anything up here. Mercury transits the sun tomorrow. Okay. Alan says hi. Look into who owns all the media mainstream. Yippers. Yes, you got it. The Jewish cartel, you got it. Same as the money, the Rothschild family, right? Germany has lost control of the papers. Yep. Okay, so thanks so much, everyone, for showing up. And I'll remind you that, these shows are, although they're being broadcasted on Connecting Dots 2, I'm actually over at Silver Gold Man, right? That's where I'm doing these, or that's where this show was supposed to be broadcasted. And if you are here from Connecting Dots 2, you may want to go check out this latest video I just put out today. I went out to the beach yesterday, and well, I know I was down at the beach, I think probably about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I don't even think I was that long, to be honest with you. I took just, I think, 8 minutes of video altogether, and by the time I ended it up there, there wasn't a whole lot there. I mean, there was a whole lot of life, but I mean, I didn't want to walk a whole lot because the beach is really rough terrain. So if you're into this Fukushima stuff and you think the Pacific Ocean's dead, well, I just took my very first video of this shoreline here. I hadn't been there since 2014, and that's another video you can catch at Connecting Dots 2 in my Fukushima playlist, Fukushima Day. You'll have to go back in time. Like I said, in 2014, I was down at the same beach, and I'm going back down again, hopefully maybe tomorrow or day after. So Monday or Tuesday, I'll be back down to another beach that I'd covered in 2014. And that beach is totally different. It's a very, very busy area. It's all along the inner harbor here of Victoria, the city of Victoria. So hopefully I'll have some great footage there again. The difference between the time frame that I was out in 2014 and this year in 2016 is roughly by several months, because in 2014 I was there in August and we're now May, so a little early, but that's all right. It'll give us a chance to analyze the same areas as we move forward here in the summer, and more life starts to spring out, because we're early spring. So I'll talk to you soon, and hopefully catch you later with more Panama paper information, and hope you have yourself a great Sunday. Take care. Ciao.